Nobody Beats the Whiz and Fox 5 want to remind you it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? The 10 o'clock news starts now.
The politicians talk about school violence, but some students are living it, running for their lives after bloody violence at 2 schools. Good evening, I'm Rosanna Scotto.
And I'm Tony Potts, in for John Rowland. He's on assignment.
The Mayor's Commission on School Safety claims it's a crime to rely on Board of Ed figures on school violence.
That's because during a hearing, school officials were accused of fudging the figures, not reporting all the violent incidents in each school. Now, the mayor wants cops to police the schools while the principal makes the rules. And he says the incoming school's chancellor agrees with him. All this talk on a day when school violence sends 2 kids to the hospital.
We start our coverage with Mike Sheehan in Jamaica, Queens. Mike.
Rosanna, no one knows why this kid was shot, but tonight, a Queens teenager is barely clinging to life.
I heard it pop like a firecracker or something. I went to the window to look, but what I saw was the boy on the ground.
Neighbors along Linden Boulevard, just down the block from the Queens School for Career Development, were startled by a loud bang about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Moments later, they found 16-year-old Gary Jones lying on the sidewalk, still clinging to his backpack filled with school books, the victim of a single bullet wound to the head.
This was an incident that happened in a rather quiet section of Southeast Queens. The school does not have a history of violence, okay, and we do not anticipate that this is going to precipitate any other acts of violence.
Well, Jones still remains in extremely critical condition. I'm told he's hooked up to a life support machine. His family's at his bedside as the hunt continues for his shooter. Reporting live from Mary Immaculate Hospital in Jamaica, Queens, I'm Mike Sheehan. Now let's go to my colleague, George Smith, who's up in the Bronx. George?
Well, Mike, 3 kids were hurt after a fight broke out over at Evander Childs High School. One of the students was apparently slashed in the face with a razor. All of the victims were brought here to Jacoby Hospital. They have since been treated and released. Let's take a look at the tape from earlier. Now, students over at the school tell us that 2 different gangs were involved in the fight. Police will only confirm that the incident is the result of an ongoing dispute between some students. The attack occurred right in front of the school about 2 p.m. No arrests just yet in the slashing incident. The victims brought here to Jacoby are 17, 15, and 13 years old. One of them is not a student at the school. None of the injuries are life-threatening. Again, no arrests just yet in the case, but there were 2 arrests in the general mayhem after the fight. One student was arrested for disorderly conduct, and a second student was arrested for assaulting a security guard. Live in the Bronx, I'm George Smith. Rosanna, back to you.
Okay, thank you, George. The new school's chancellor promises to make safety a top priority when he starts work next Monday, but he may not be at his desk at 110 Livingston for very long. There's talk he may try to convert that office building to a school.
Well, now let's talk about the stealing that's happening on some New York street corners, and it is as easy as pie. It's done with food stamps and done so openly, we didn't have to hide our Fox 5 cameras to get it on video. Ed Miller has the tape. Ask her if she wants to buy your food stamps.
A Fox investigation proves millions of taxpayer dollars are going down the drain because of widespread fraud in the food stamp program, a program which is supposed to keep the poor from going hungry. Instead, for example, right outside this welfare office on 14th Street, we found a food cart vendor cheating the system. Listen carefully. They're haggling over the price.
No. The lady at the hot dog truck, she's buying the food stamp. For 115 to 75.
Just down the street, more haggling.
The $10 food stamp, what you get them?
What do I give them? 5. But you get the cash. I get the food stamp.
Usually the scam works like this. Food stamp holder doesn't really want the food at all, but knows the stamps are worth big bucks on the black market. So he sells them at a discount for cash, usually to a small merchant. The merchant goes along with it because he turns them in for full value, making himself a tidy profit.
Get 7 1/4 for 10.
So they'll give you $7.25 cash for a $10 food stamp coupon.
There's always a way to beat the system.
Federal investigators found that 20% of the stores in New York that were checked were in business not from milk and bread, but existed because of swindling food stamps. In several different locations, we found greedy hustlers, widespread abuse, and little fear of being caught.
Out of maybe 100 people that you would know, you would say 80 people, maybe 85, would turn them in for the cash.
This man says welfare is to blame for food stamp corruption because they don't give him enough.
If the kids need sneakers or whatever, and he got 3 or 4 kids that she's supporting,
he got to cash in the food stamps to make sure that kid get his sneakers.
If there was ever a program in need of reform, it is the food stamps program.
Congressman Charles Schumer wants the feds to beef up undercover investigations like the one you see here and replace the food stamps with credit cards. For while the stamps bring food to some, they bring riches to others. Ed Miller, Fox News.
All right, thanks, Ed. Now, they say around the country these scams are costing taxpayers $2 billion. And somehow, no one ever thought to check the list of people getting food stamps and of those who are working to see who qualifies and who doesn't. Rosanna?
Tony, the hunt is on for whoever derailed the Amtrak train in the Arizona desert. A group calling itself Sons of the Gestapo left notes claiming responsibility, but the FBI never heard of them before. They say it could just be someone mad at the railroad. In either case, one person died and nearly 80 others were hurt when the train plunged into a ravine. The ATF has another problem. Someone stole more than 500 pounds of ammonium nitrate from a construction company in Georgia. That's the same stuff terrorists mixed with fuel oil to blow up the federal buildings in Oklahoma City. They also stole hundreds of blasting caps. Federal agents say they have no clue who did it, but they think it may have been an inside job.
Boxing promoter Don King came out swinging against charges of insurance fraud, charges that could land him in jail. Fox 5's Christopher Jones takes us ringside for round one.
Don King is no stranger to trouble, but they don't call him the Teflon Don of boxing for nothing. King has been the subject of at least 3 grand jury investigations, but until now he has proved remarkably immune.
How do you feel?
Today is the first celebrity trial held in the new federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. The man whose head of hair is his trademark may have had to worry more about the crush of camera crews and reporters around him than the charges he faces.
Yeah, come on. Look out the way. Come on. Look out the way. Come on.
King has never been KO'd in his bouts with the government. In 1985, he was acquitted of federal tax evasion charges. In 1954, he killed a man who was robbing a numbers house in Cleveland. It was ruled self-defense. In 1967, King fatally beat a man who owed him money. He served just 4 years and was later pardoned by Ohio's governor. Today, the government began its latest bout with Don King. As the trial began, prosecutors called him an insurance thief, claiming he cheated Lloyd's of London out of $350,000 by submitting a falsified contract for a 1991 fight that was canceled. Ordinarily, this would be a prosecutor's dream, a so-called documentary crime provable simply by examining the falsified papers. But King's lawyer, Peter Fleming, told a jury of 9 women and 3 men that boxing is a complicated business and that King was actually a kindly banker who advanced hundreds of thousands of dollars to his fighters, including the $350,000 in question. The normally talkative King was a man of few words today.
This case will be complicated. King's attorney says the devil's in the details, and there are plenty of details to go around. The case could take as long as 2 months to present. After just 20 minutes of the government's presentation, one juror already appeared to be asleep. Christopher Jones, Fox News.
And while King fights in court, he's also busy promoting Mike Tyson's next fight, which will be seen right here on Fox 5 next month.
The Pacific coast of Mexico is still reeling from that killer earthquake. Hundreds of buildings were wrecked along 250 miles of coast. The town Manzanillo is the hardest hit. Today, rescuers didn't find a single survivor in the rubble of that hotel that collapsed. The only discovery, a grim one, the bodies of a woman and a child. That brings the death toll to 56, and it's expected to rise. And another natural disaster is set to strike the other coast of Mexico. Tonight, Hurricane Roxanne rocks the Yucatan Peninsula. You can see on the latest satellite picture the center of the storm is just south of Cozumel. Hurricane Opal barreled through there just last week.
Well, Opal brought some weather, some rainy weather our way, but Nick, well, is there any rainy weather in store for us coming our way? Nick.
We don't have that one. Let's use this one.
You have another mic?
Okay. Got another mic right
You got
here.
it?
Okay.
Yes, right
It
here. We
looks
go.
like
There.
Roxanne.
Hey, that Roxanne has been affecting everything tonight. What can I tell you? Except that we were telling you more about 50s again across a good part of the area. It's pleasant, it's clear, and it's going to stay that way, except for just a few clouds that'll move through overnight, and it'll get down basically into the mid-50s for overnight low temperature. You can see there's just a few scattered clouds coming across from the west. No big storms in the forecast. In fact, you're going to love
the upcoming forecast. I'll tell you about it a little bit later on, plus give you all the details on Roxanne. I'll see you then.
Get that mic fixed.
We'll
too,
get it
man.
done.
All right. Well, remember Reverend Ike, the Rolls-Royce minister?
I see myself having money, but money does not have me.
Well, the minister's in trouble. It's a story about sex, power, and money.
And Christie's headed for a courtroom as well. Find out what she and her soon-to-be ex are fighting about now.
And if you could go one-on-one with O.J., what would you ask him? Our legal expert, Jay Monahan, has his own list of questions when the 10 o'clock news returns.
Tomorrow on Good Day New York, should parents of one race adopt children of another? We'll hear from some people who grew up that way. And more on fire safety on Good Day tomorrow at 7 on Fox 5.
My home is halfway around the world, but I call there a lot. Basically, everyone's rates are about the same. So why do I stick with AT&T? Clearer connections, operators who speak my language, international redial. It's like this, where most service stops, AT&T is just getting started.
More for your money on calls around the world. That's your true choice, AT&T.
Now there's a Visa card where when you use it to buy, say, tires for your car, you could get a car free. And when you use it to buy, say, a stereo for your car, you could get a boat free. Because this is the Toys R Us Visa card. And every place you use it to buy something, you automatically earn credit toward free toys at Toys R Us. And that could add up to some very big rewards. So look for your application in the mail or at your local Toys R Us store.
Coming up, find out which drugs are changing the face of adult acne. And we'll check out OJ's post-verdict finances.
What do I think it is?
I'll wait first.
What is this? A circular...
Well,
Introducing the Teledyne Water Pick pour-through water filter. The only one that filters tap water the natural way.
So there's to it?
It pours right out.
So even if you like your water... Night and day difference.
This one tastes clean. Fresher, cleaner.
This will make it taste better.
There is a difference, and it does taste cleaner.
Nice and cold.
The new pour-through filter only from Teledyne Water Pick.
Everybody's buying water now. This is the answer to it.
For the retailer nearest you, please call 1-800-525-2774.
You want me to greenlight a weekly series with Howie Mandel? This better be fresh. You're looking at your next job.
Love this business.
True story. Frustrated wife, older husband, young sex slave.
Think Egypt. Born in the desert. 10,000-year-old artifact. It's 80% Indiana Jones, 20% Star Wars.
I'm liking it 80-20. I'm loving it 60-40.
If it's an idea worth talking about, you know where you'll see it. Showtime. Talk about exciting.
Welcome back. Model Christy Brinkley says her new husband is far from a model father. She married real estate man Ricky Taubman last December on the ski slopes, but apparently it's been all downhill since then. Christy says Ricky's barely seen his son since he was born in June, and she wants sole custody. Now, he claims he tried to see the baby, but Christy wouldn't let him. They're due in court in a month. Rosanna?
Tony, a lawyer, says a famous TV evangelist doesn't have a prayer. He claims the Reverend Ike, who liked to collect millions from his viewers, is going to be paying millions for sexual harassment of a young man. Unicorn reports.
Money comes to me from new avenues.
The Reverend Frederick Eichencotter, better known as the Reverend Ike, was controversial even before this sex scandal emerged. The evangelist has not only enjoyed popularity on the airwaves, but an extravagant lifestyle that includes several homes. Among them, this apartment complex in Long Beach from which his television show is produced, his church at 175th and Broadway in Manhattan, and a couple of Rolls Royces that have always had the locals talking. And some new problems brought on by charges of sexual harassment from a 25-year-old former employee, Andrew Brown, who claims he was fired 7 months into his job after he refused the Reverend's sexual advances. The $100 million civil suit charges the Reverend with asking him to go way beyond the duties a personal assistant should, getting way too personal. Brown charges the Reverend with forcing him to disrobe and model the Reverend's clothes, offensively touching and caressing him, and locking him out of his apartment so he'd be forced to sleep at the Reverend's.
The only way that Andrew was able to alleviate the tension brought upon him by advances made to him by the Reverend was to go out one night, hire a young hustler or a young prostitute in Individual home as a present for the Reverend.
We have no comment. We will further and we would appreciate...
We went to the Reverend's church to try to get his side of the story, but we were told the Reverend's not around. No comment. Get out. They might not have been talking inside, but outside they were.
I think you're a fraud if you ask me. A real fraud. If it is true, I hope that they bring him down.
He's a nice man. He's great to everybody.
Millions are at stake in all this, not just in the suit, but in Reverend Ike's evangelical empire. In Long Beach, Long Island, Una Kwan, Fox News.
The Reverend Ike has denied under oath that he made sexual advances to Mr. Brown, but the jury that heard him then acquitted Brown of charges he burglarized the Reverend's apartment.
In tonight's political patrol, a former Garden State governor says he won't run for Bill Bradley's Senate seat. Jim Florio says he wants to devote time to a law firm he formed just last week. Florio served one term as New Jersey's governor, raised taxes, and then lost to Republican Christy Whitman. Florio's announcement heads off a party fight. Democratic Congressman Robert Torricelli is expected to announce he's running for the seat. Steve Forbes won't let anything get in the way of his presidential campaign, including an old New York election law. Forbes says he'll go to court to fight the law that requires him to round up more than 33,000 signatures to qualify for the New York primary.
Those jewel thieves are still on the run tonight as detectives try to track them down. The heist's worth $3 million. Fox 5's Bob O'Brien broke the story last night. Now he's back with a follow-up.
There's probably no block on Earth that sees more armored vehicles and gun-toting delivery guards than Diamond and Jewelry Way, West 47th Street, between 5th and 6th Avenues. But around 7:30 Monday evening, when most jewelers are long gone, a trio of machine gun-toting robbers left a husband and wife who own a 4th-floor jewelry house at 20 West 47th terrified and out about $3 million worth of diamonds and jewelry. The woman obviously found the memory of staring down a machine gun barrel while handcuffed to a doorknob and her husband hard to erase.
They were large guns. They described them. As a matter of fact, when our emergency service was there, they were carrying automatic weapons, and they described them sort of like the same size as the automatic weapons that emergency service was carrying.
Detectives say to appreciate just how ultra-sophisticated this jewel robbery team is, you have to come out here to the alleyway between the buildings of West 47th Street and West 46th Street, because the cops found dangling from the rear of the building at number 20 West 47th ropes and hooks indicating that this commando-style team, dressed in all-black commando garb, rappelled down the back of this building 4 stories to the alleyway below and then somehow made their way from that alleyway onto West 46th Street. Shortly after the robbery, the police discovered a mask with curly gray hair, apparently ditched on West 46th Street as the robbers made their getaway. Bob O'Brien, Fox News.
Right across the street, burglars stole $1 million in gold and diamonds from a safe last Saturday. Police don't think the two crimes are linked.
12 moves in 13 minutes, and after a month of mental contortions and nail-biting, that's all it took for Garry Kasparov to keep his crown as world chess champ. He won a grueling 20-game series against Visi, Anand, and chess champ is no cheap honor. Kasparov gets a check for $1 million, a beautiful trophy. Anand got $500,000. Let's check in with Fox 5's checkers champ, Kurt Menefee. He's in our newsroom with the first on Fox Sports. Your move, Kurt.
Did you say you got $500,000?
No, not me.
Okay, I kind of misheard that story. Well, several players got crowned tonight as the Islanders continued looking for their first win of the young hockey season. Who, you ask? Well, that wasn't really the question as much as what. As in, what in the world was this guy doing sitting in the stands? This is a player. The game is going on the ice. He's just sitting there. Hey, a somewhat strange explanation comes your way later in sports. And while we're questioning authority, why must the Knicks leave the comforts of home and rack up those frequent flyer miles just to have basketball practice? I know there's some tough questions, but Tony and Rosanna, get out your pens and notebooks. We'll try and give you a cheat sheet that might help you along just a little bit later in sports.
We need that.
Well, you know, if I had $500,000, Kurt, I'd give you at least
50 cents, maybe?
A $250,000.
Okay. Yeah, right. I believe that one.
Thanks,
we'll see
Kurt.
You later. Okay. All right. Insulin can help control diabetes. There is no cure, but researchers say it may not be too far off. That story's coming up.
Gay and lesbian activists are saying don't leave home without this card.
And up next, gay protesters take their battle to the Supreme Court. The 10 o'clock news. We'll be right back.
Not everyone loves cats.
Here's your earring.
I thought Mittens ate this.
He did.
But Thursday, when the family pet bites the dust,
Is he okay?
Let's just say he's feeling no pain.
you'll get a send-off you won't believe.
Mittens wasn't already dead. That would have counted again.
A brand new living single. Then, NBA great AC Green guest stars.
Could you please sign my airstick bag?
It's the first living single and the crew. Thursday beginning at 8 on Fox 5.
When I worked at City Hall, I used to ask, how am I doing? Now that I'm working with HIP, I'm interested in how you're doing. With HIP, you get all kinds of preventive care programs, like seminars to help you stop smoking. You get immunizations, mammograms, and we've got programs for asthma and diabetes and much, much more. Because even though HIP will be there for you when you're sick, isn't it a lot better to stay well? I think so. So sign up now and join me.
There are more than 77 million parents in America today. 77 million moms and dads, all doing the same thing, worrying about their kids. That's why you need Chevy Lumina, a car you can trust. Lumina offers an integrated child safety package. Few cars can offer your kids this protection, and no car in its class can offer it for the price of a Lumina. For 77 million of you, that's one less thing to worry about. That's genuine Chevrolet.
Identify yourself. Do you go for the gusto? Go out on a limb? Go full speed ahead? Go where no man has gone before? Or are you a cornflake eater? Guess not. You go for the adrenaline-pumping, milk-defying taste of Wheaties, made with wall-to-wall, indoor, outdoor, toasty, tasty, 100% whole wheat. A whole mouthful of flavor. It's the whole Megillah. So for taste that goes all out, go for the over-the-top taste of whole wheat Wheaties.
Now the commemorative Cal Ripken Jr. box.
Coming up, our Legal Eagle previews the Big OJ interview and an interview with a very jaded Hollywood actor.
Nothing could stop former NBA star Johnny Moore. Except a deadly infection. Doctor said he'd go blind. Never have kids. Possibly die. With proper care and medicine we developed at Pfizer, Johnny got another shot at life. Pfizer, we're part of the cure.
The news sponsored by the Money Store. Refinance your home and consolidate your bills with just one call.
Hi, I'm Jim Palmer. If you're a homeowner who's had credit problems, the Money Store can give you a fresh start with their new Back on Track program. Just make your first 12 payments on time, and the Money Store will reduce your interest rate by 0.5%. Keep paying on time, and they'll lower your rate again at the end of years 2 and 3. That's a savings of 1.5%. You can lower your interest rate and your payments just for paying on time. The Back on Track program, now at the Money Store. Call 1-800-LOAN-YES.
Police are investigating the death of a pregnant Westchester woman. She may have been killed in her own home. Now, it happened in Terrytown. Fox 5's Penny Crone is just back from the scene and has the latest from our newsroom. Penny?
Tony, all I can tell you is this is the perfect example of just how cruel humans can be to one another. Now, the house is set way back on a hill off South Broadway in Terrytown. Magdalena Desai was 9 months pregnant, due any day, but she was found murdered, and her fetus also died. Terrytown police say Mrs. Desai's husband, Lamartin, found her body when he and a co-worker stopped by the house at 3:45 yesterday afternoon. Police say Lamartin told them his wife's 1992 Suzuki was stolen, and some of her jewelry was missing. Now, police are investigating this horrifying crime, and they still say they don't have the exact cause of Mrs. Desai's death. Now back to you, Tony.
All right, thanks, Penny. And police are still trying to find out just how the killer got into the woman's home. Roseanne?
Tony, there was anger on the steps outside the Supreme Court. Inside, the justices heard arguments about a Colorado law that bars special protection for gay men and women. The city of Aspen passed a gay rights law, but the state held a referendum and the people struck it down. The High Court is expected to rule by July. And former tennis great Martina Navratilova is doing her part for gay rights. She was in town to unveil the new Rainbow Visa card. It's got a picture of the 1993 Gay Pride March on Washington. It's offered through the Travelers Bank and is co-sponsored by Subaru. Some of the profits will fund lesbian and gay health issues.
And the health of newborn babies is at the top of Governor Pataki's agenda. He came to New York to announce a new law that lets mothers know if their children are born with the AIDS virus.
Since 1987, every infant has been tested on birth to see whether or not they are HIV positive, but it's been done anonymously where the mother is not allowed to know the results of that test. Because of this change, now the mothers will know and be able to take steps to improve and protect their infants upon birth from transmittal of the HIV virus.
But opponents of the law say many HIV-infected women will shy away from prenatal care because they don't want their baby tested.
The city thinks it's found a way to get to accident victims faster, and firefighters in Queens put out a fire but stumble onto a horrible crime, all in a New York Minute. Firefighters in Bayside, Queens made a gruesome find in the trunk of this car, the head and other body parts of a 45-year-old man. It was discovered because the car was on fire. City firefighters will soon join forces with EMS in an effort to help reduce response times on emergency calls.
That's our business, to save lives.
Call them Future Firefighters of America. These sixth graders join the mayor and the fire commissioner to help kick off Fire Prevention Week.
Let's take responsibility for saving our own lives and for saving the lives of other people.
Cardinal O'Connor is still floating from the Pope's visit, and he may be playing host to another visitor. Fidel Castro wants to come to town for the 50th anniversary of the UN. Donna Hanover Giuliani, Susan Lucci, and Joan Rivers put their best feet forward for breast cancer. QVC, the home shopping channel, is sponsoring the world's largest shoe sale. Proceeds will go to breast cancer research. And that's a New York Minute. A bizarre accident lands Dr. Joyce Brothers in the hospital. Tell you what, she won't be saying mush anytime soon.
Plus, you'll hear from O.J.'s former buddy, Ron Shipp. Find out why he wasn't celebrating the verdict.
And up next, one-on-one with the juice, our expert Jay Monahan has some questions that might make O.J. squirm. Nick.
You're not going to be squirming in this upcoming forecasters, and I can tell you that much because the average high is 67 for this week. The average low is 51. We're going to do better than those numbers. I'll tell you just how nice it's going to be with a full forecast coming up when the 10 o'clock news continues.
Today, big news from the automotive world. Happy Sport utility buyers flock to showrooms for their first look at the 96 GMC Jimmy. And look at the savings. Now that's a lot of green. And speaking of green, Jeep owners are green with envy. Now the Jimmy tops Grand Cherokee with over 4,800 simoleons in savings. Could there be a better time to save? Get moving. See your Tri-State GMC truck dealer today.
In 8 days it begins. A new world of younger-looking skin with Lancome's visibly revitalizing solution, Primordial. Pure vitamin E, a gentle hydroxy acid, and a patented nanocapsule technology now make it possible. Younger-looking skin than you ever thought possible. Primordial, the new world of skincare. Lancome Paris. French favorites, your choice of gift by skin type with any 1750 Lancome purchase. Now at Bloomingdale's.
Your eyes are important, so you need to trust them to the right person. 35 years ago, when I started Pearl Vision, I established a philosophy of eye care that would always ensure a quality eye exam. Of course, today, when you visit an independent doctor of optometry next to Pearl Vision, you won't see me, Dr. Stanley Pearl, but you will find someone I'd even trust my own eyes to.
Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
In Germany, there is no word for gonzo, no word for rad, righteous, or gnarly. And as far as we can tell, no word for whoa. There is, however, a car. Introducing the Audi A4, a stunning achievement in German engineering, and one wicked ride. Dude, the new A4, get ready for the ride of your life.
Now, on the 10 o'clock news. His trial's over, but OJ's about to take the stand. Get a preview of the questions he'll field from the hot seat. Fox Business gives you a feel for Simpson's post-trial financial status. Researchers give diabetics new hope in the search for a cure. And David Caruso gives it another go at the box office.
You'll learn a lot about yourself going forward on that ramp.
This is the 10 o'clock news.
Welcome back. The phones are ringing off the hook at NBC. Angry callers are asking how dare the network interview O.J. Simpson.
And big protests are planned outside NBC's Burbank studios. That's where the interview will take place. Now, attorney Jay Monahan followed the trial with me on O.J. Today here on Fox 5. And you know Jay, he has some questions he'd love to ask.
If I were given the chance to go one-on-one with O.J. Simpson, other than the obvious question, did you murder your wife and Ron Goldman? Here's what I'd want to know. Who was that man that walked into the house that night? O.J., what is your alibi? Were you chipping golf balls, oversleeping, showering, or cutting your finger on your cell phone?
How many times can one person get cut? In how many different states? In one night, in one morning.
Question. When did you first cut your finger, O.J.? Was it in Chicago after the murders, or was it before you ever left for Chicago?
You gotta tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, and he got a gun to his head.
O.J., why didn't you turn yourself in as you promised? And who called 911 demanding police go to the crime scene at the very moment you took off in Al Cowling's Bronco? A diversion? And why were you carrying a gun, $10,000, a passport, and a disguise?
Does that black bag look similar to either one of the black duffel bags that you described to the jury at this point? Yes, it does.
And those missing items, O.J., what happened to the tote bag and the contents of the Louis Vuitton bag? Did you ever own Bruno Maggi shoes and Aris Leatherlight gloves?
Can you describe for us the noise you heard, Mr. Kalin?
It was, in my room, it has this wall in it, like that.
How about Cato Kalin, O.J.? Why did he testify you had driven the Rolls to McDonald's when you insisted you'd taken the Bronco? My final question, O.J., why didn't you ever take a polygraph test? The questions go on. Whether O.J. has the answers remains to be seen. I'm Jay Monahan, Fox News.
All right, thanks, Jay. NBC News President Andrew Lack defended the decision to air the interview, saying tough questions will be asked. He says Bryant Gumbel was pulled from the interview team because of his close friendship with Simpson. Lack says Gumbel called in sick and didn't show up for the Today Show this morning. Was that it?
Tony, President Clinton hasn't said much about the Simpson case until today. Now he's spoken out. He says he was surprised how differently the verdict is viewed by whites and by African Americans.
We don't have a stake in drifting apart. We need to see reality. We can have differences of opinion, but at least we ought to be able to look at facts and reach some common judgment more frequently than apparently we're able to today.
Mr. Clinton would not say anything directly on the verdict itself. One of O.J.'s former best friends is speaking out for the first time since the verdict, Ron Shipp. He testified against Simpson at the trial, and he told The Current Affair he knows O.J. did it.
And she had told me over time again that she thought O.J., she said, he's going to kill me. I didn't believe her. In fact, I told Nicole, I said, Nicole, this man will never hit you again. He will never touch you again. You tell her, hey, don't worry, and they're dead. To be truthful, I had dreams of killing her. And with that, I went, okay. Race had nothing to do with this case, man. Nothing. Tell the truth, O.J. Case closed.
Shipp said he turned down a lot of money to tell his story in the tabloids. He said he's only coming out now to get it off his chest.
Well, O.J.'s finances are not in ship shape by any means, but he may have the means to pay off his huge legal bills. How? That's in tonight's Fox Business News.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
The jury has spoken, and now O.J. is about to. Wednesday night's interview on Dateline NBC may not rival the first moon landing for viewers, but you can almost hear the channels changing already.
I think this will be one of the most highly watched events in primetime history.
Mike Hammer is the senior reporter for TV Guide.
This is the part of the public rehabilitation process. It gives him an opportunity to tell his story almost on his terms, even though NBC says that this will be a no-holds-barred interview. I think that O.J. Simpson will have a great command of this situation.
But what about O.J.'s financial situation? Dream teams can make a nightmare out of your bank balance. It's estimated he owes his lawyers between $5 and $11 million. Now, because of the not guilty verdict, Simpson gets to keep everything he earned while in prison. Now, we're not talking about making license plates here. Money Magazine estimates Simpson made $3 to $4 million from his book, I Want to Tell You. Now, add in a few $100,000 more for signed trading cards, phone cards, a bronze statue, and pretty soon you're talking some serious cash. O.J.'s also suing to get part of the action on other licensing, including more than 30 books, theme cruises, videotapes, and computer software. Money says that could all add up to about $10 million. Now, all that may stand between O.J. and his banker are civil suits by the families of Ron and Nicole. And that's the Fox Business Report for Tuesday, October 10th. Okay, it is an embarrassing problem, and it's not only teenagers who suffer. Fox Medicine takes a look at adult acne coming up next.
Do we have to? And that sure is a narrow aisle for a bride. But let me tell you, she was sky high after the ceremony.
I'm Kurt Menefee. Finish this poem. Since the Yankees found the playoffs too rough, we're going to talk about A, HR puffin stuff, B, kids who are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or C, the Giants' dicks and other stuff. Hey, just in case you can't get enough, we'll be back later with sports.
Why aren't you driving a Ford?
Drive the sport utility that delivers instant traction automatically. Ford Explorer. Drive the car completely redesigned for '96. Ford Taurus. Drive the minivan that's taking the competition by storm. Windstar.
Your Ford dealer rules the streets.
Nobody has more #1 selling cars and trucks, and we're not stopping there. 5 of the 10 best sellers
And counting.
are at your Tri-State Quality Ford dealer now.
Why aren't you driving a Ford? 106.7 Light FM is the only radio station scientifically designed for listening all day while you work. Exactly how they do it is a secret, but I can tell you it has something to do with how much great light music they play and how little they talk. The bottom line is you can enjoy listening to Light FM longer. In fact, you can turn on Light FM in the morning and leave it on all day long with absolutely no damage to your radio. And I wouldn't say that if it weren't true.
106.7 Light FM.
You're going to love it. Trust me.
Hillary called just after Ryan was born. She said she could not get to the bank. She had just had a baby.
I thought one was difficult, but nothing compared to two.
She wanted an account opened for her son.
Okay.
My response was, I'll come to your house.
And I said, you'd come to my house?
I'll be there in 10 minutes.
When did a banker ever say they would come to your house to open an account? It was amazing, and it was very helpful to me.
Oh, great. Your mother-in-law is coming, and she'll want to see that dress she gave Ellen. Yeah, that one. She's always on time, and you've got just one shot at getting that stain out. Don't risk it, whisk it with new Whisk. A whisk with even better stain fighters. In just one wash, Whisk gets out tough stains, even juice stains. She's coming. Don't risk it, whisk it with new improved stain-fighting Whisk.
Are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time. The ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, burn, burn like fabulous yellow Roman candles, exploding like spiders across the stars. And in the middle you see the blue center light pop, and everybody goes, oh.
I'm Lynn Brown. In tonight's Fox Medicine, just left behind those teenage years? So how come you can't get rid of those teenage pimples? You're not alone. A large percentage of people who have teenage acne go on to have adult acne too, and it's hereditary.
Adult acne is usually more hormonally controlled. Especially women tend to flare when they're premenstrual. There are other hormonal fluctuations, and stress is a very big factor.
Adults usually have acne on the lower part of their face, as opposed to teenagers who get pimples on their nose, forehead, and chin.